The most powerful marketing weapon is a conversation between a prospective buyer and a salesperson. For all the tech wizardry that exists today, that hasn't changed. Humans like to tell stories, have a laugh, share ideas. Conversation is about sharing experiences, ideas, problems, and it's that that makes us human. Conversational marketing is about creating a two-way dialogue. That means listening to and understanding the prospective buyer before replying with relevant personalised responses that persuade them to continue on their buying journey. Customers today spend 80% of their buying time online. Fundamentally, business growth comes from those conversations that turn into orders, profitable conversations, and you need more of those. In the business market today, most contact is online and virtual, making conversation difficult. You need to create the circumstances to encourage a conversation to happen, giving thought to every piece of content and messaging that happens through the various touch points between you and your audience. You need to create the circumstances to encourage a conversation to happen, giving thought to every piece of content and messaging that occurs through the various touch points between you and your audience. Most of this conversation will be virtual, between your prospective customer and your website, blog post, video stream, webinar chat, podcast, live chat. Through all of these vehicles, there's always some way of creating a two-way dialogue. And that's important because only 17% of customers want to speak to a salesperson before they buy. We live with the reality that practically all marketing today is digital. So much so, it's hardly worth adding digital to every phrase. To make a conversation happen in this era requires a great deal of thought and planning. You want to win new customers time and again by mastering the art of effective engagement with online communities. And to do that, you have to know your audience, where they go to hang out, what events led them to start looking for an answer to a product, service or solution need, how they think, how they frame their buying need, who they trust for advice or recommendations. And you will then need to persuade customers to make the next move in terms of content, services, etc. Your technology plays a key role in making conversations happen. Face it, if your customers only engage with suppliers once they've made their minds up about what they need and potentially who the suppliers could be, that doesn't leave much room for humans. You will need technology. This is where responsive digital documents can lend a helpful hand. We introduce responsive documents later in this course. But let me now explain the role of a conversational path. A process is only as strong as its weakest link. You really need to think through every step of how you're going to engage your audience of potential buyers and make sure none of these steps result in a bottleneck or worse, take your customers to a dead end. A conversational path describes the pre-planned journey that prospective customers will experience from the start point of identifying a need through to the eventual sale of an offering. Planning your conversational path helps to anticipate bottlenecks and suboptimal areas of performance or efficiency, articulate how a prospect becomes a customer, sets out the framework for measuring performance of the key stages of your engagement approach. Let's step through together the steps in the conversational journey. The 9 steps of a conversational path are these. The persona, characteristics of the person likely to buy. The job to be done. The event, the life event that causes the prospect to consider their requirements. The frame, the psychology of the prospect and how they frame their buying needs. Place, where the prospect is likely to hang out so that you can target your communications to them. You need to think about where customers will land on your web properties. Then you need to consider what customers expect in their experience in terms of content or service they will receive. Seed, how you plan to introduce your gift of value. Epic, what digital asset you must produce to complete your gift. Call to action, the call to action button or clickable event. And the product, the offer you're going to present to prospects. Once an inquiry has passed through all of these phases, it transitions from being a marketing opportunity to a sales inquiry. It is often at this stage that an inquiry passes from marketing to sales teams. In this section, we formalise that handover and qualify what constitutes a sales opportunity. It's worth giving some thought to where your sales leads can come from. But take a step back and think about where your leads could come from. Do this and I expect you will determine only a small number of lead sources. These are the channels and mechanisms you can use to generate a sales opportunity. To adopt a performance-based marketing approach, it's a worthy plan to identify these sources and make sure to measure them every month. Of course, just defining the buckets won't deliver any leads. You're going to have to formalise joined-up campaigns to bring site visitors to your door. And like all disciplines, there are some tricks to the trade. Marketing is always an experiment, but if you want to win, you'll want to make sure you load the odds in your favour. Before you start bleeding money on marketing spend, consider whether your campaign style is the best way to reveal your customer value. There are broadly only 12 styles of sales and marketing campaign you can initiate to create new sales leads. So let's consider the options. You want your page visitor to interact with you, and one of the ways to do that is to allow them to try your product. Step through a demonstrator or configure the product they want to buy, allowing them to express their individuality. The simplest way to engage page visitors is to offer a meeting so they can get answers to their questions. If you're offering a consultation, the question to answer is, why would a site visitor see value in it when they can get advice and answers from so many places, including Q&A sites like Reddit and Quora, chatbots, artificial intelligence platforms like ChatGPT, and of course Google search. If you are going to recommend a meeting, give them some insight as to what they're going to learn from that experience. Give them some soundings as to the sorts of outcomes they could expect from spending some time with you. And don't forget to qualify why you are the authority, why you are going to help them to get the answers they need. The next option is events. There are various event styles to choose from: exhibitions, roundtables, breakfast briefings, webinars. And you can make use of modern webinar platforms like Zoom, WebEx, GoToWebinar and Adobe Connect to use the poll features to engage your clients in a conversation. If you are going to run a webinar, then check out our guide on how to run a webinar. It's full of hints and tips on the best things that you could do to get the most out of the webinar experience. If you were in front of a customer in the real world, you would never dream of pitching to them before understanding what their needs are. A virtual webinar should be no different. The rules are still precisely the same. Using polls during virtual events is a good habit to get into. Using the poll features, you can ask the sorts of questions you would want to ask in a live environment to qualify your audience. Your next engagement option is a self-help scorecard or calculator. We all want to be able to benchmark our personal circumstances, our own situation, the opportunity or cost of making an investment decision. Self-help scorecards and calculators are a fantastic way to engage your audience and set out the baby steps of a conversation. For professional services suppliers and those that solve problems with their product or service, another excellent way of engaging with an audience is to offer a tutorial or a how-to guide. We all want to learn, so there is valuable training content and advice that you can provide to get a job done better. You are the expert. The best solution is some form of interactive format that allows your page visitor to make choices, answer questions, add their personal insights and complete assessments. This interaction is very important. It helps you to understand the prospect and what their needs are. Flat documents that only offer an ability for your visitor to read content aren't as useful, as entertaining or as interesting. There are some great examples of apps like Duolingo and Babbel that use gamification to make learning interesting. Ideally, you need to do the same. You could produce a comparison or review of your prospects' buying options. As people reach the later stages of their buying journey, they will look to work out which product or service is right for them. They'll seek to qualify their buying options, and the most common way to do that is to hunt down comparisons and reviews. These are two of the very best ways to engage your audience, principally because they're at the end of their buying journey and they're looking to make a decision as to which option to purchase. Of course, another way to draw people to your site and into a conversation is a promotion, an advert, or an offer. Digital ad and social media platforms are so good these days at filtering profiles that it means you can place your offer in front of the ideal target audience. You might choose to participate in marketplaces. Marketplaces are another popular way to find your audience, whether it's Amazon, eBay, Etsy, or notonthehighstreet.com. If digital marketplaces are the places where your audience hangs out, you need to be there. This next option is very much about word of mouth. Buyers are so influenced by personal recommendations of others. You may have the opportunity to encourage customers, channel partners, professional contacts, influencers and suppliers to recommend you as a provider. Partner channels can be a great way to reach your audience. Partners too will have websites and marketing tools you can use to raise profile and build visibility with your audience. They may have a more familiar and popular brand with your target audience. Equally, they may have marketing budget to invest with you to win customers for both parties. Our next option is networking. There are many professional groups and privately sponsored events that will give you the opportunity to network with your target audience. Networking offers a very friendly, engaging opportunity to make conversation happen. It's easier when you have a tight proposition, so step back to that module and make sure you understand how to get the best out of your story and how to pitch it to your customers. Our next option is community participation or lock-in. The gaming industry has become exceptional at tying potential buyers into trials, habits, and then subscriptions. With clever tools like in-game tokens and give-to-get subscription options, you can learn a lot from the gaming industry about how to execute gift reward strategies. You need to plan before you start your marketing. Having reviewed your campaign options, you'll need to settle on a singular campaign style for your campaign. You'll want to make sure, over the next 90 days, you're going to thoroughly pursue your chosen route to generating sales inquiries.